Countries where Americans are not welcome in 2024. Hello again, world travelers. We're discussing a delicate and thought-provoking subject today that is essential for tourists to comprehend. Even while there is greater connectivity than ever before, there are still some places where Americans might not feel totally accepted. In 2024, perceptions and regulations affecting the places and modes of travel available to Americans have been impacted by political, social, and cultural considerations. It is crucial to understand that our intention is not to disparage any country or its citizens before we get started. Every nation has its own historical, political, and cultural justifications for its positions. It is important to comprehend and honor those motivations. Why then are certain nations less hospitable to Americans? Is it because of recent tragedies, historical occurrences, political conflicts, or cultural differences? And what can Americans do if they want to honor these locations with responsible and polite visits? Remember to like and give us a thumbs up so we can continue regularly uploading videos. Number 6. Eritrea. Eritrea is located in the Horn of Africa. Because of its isolationist policies and despotic government, it is frequently referred to as the North Korea of Africa. Relationship tensions between the U.S. and Eritrea stem from a number of concerns, including Eritrea's human rights record and the imprisonment of local staff members of the U.S. Embassy. Eritrea's tourist visa application process is infamously tough and approval is frequently subjective. Not even having all the necessary paperwork will ensure approval. It's also important to keep in mind that processing can take a long time, often many months. You have restricted freedom to travel around Eritrea even if you have a visa. Foreign tourists must apply for and receive a travel permission from the Eritrean government in order to leave the country's capital, Asmara. This can be a difficult and drawn-out process. Restricted licenses are frequently exclusively issued for specific tourist destinations. Leaving restricted regions may incur fines or other consequences. Even while getting to Eritrea is undoubtedly difficult, people who have been there frequently talk about its distinct charm, which includes the breathtaking scenery of the Dahlak archipelago and the Asmara's Art Deco architecture. Are you waiting to apply for a new passport or to renew an old one? See these fascinating locations that do not require a passport. Number 5. Saudi Arabia. Due to its stringent visa regulations, Saudi Arabia used to be a difficult destination for American travelers to visit. The nation, which is ruled by strict Islamic law, has historically only granted visas to citizens' families, business travelers, and Hajj pilgrims. As part of its Vision 2030 initiative, Saudi Arabia introduced a new tourist visa in 2019 in an effort to draw in foreign tourists and diversify its economy away from the oil industry. Saudi Arabia now permits Americans to apply online for a tourist visa, which is a significant departure from its previous tight restrictions. The e-visa application procedure is comparatively simple and speedy. Candidates must pay a fee, submit a passport-sized photo, and complete an online form. The one-year visa allows for multiple entries, with a maximum stay of 90 days each entry. Even yet, there are still limitations for female tourists. When visiting, women under the age of 25 must be accompanied by a family member, but single women over 25 are permitted to visit Saudi Arabia. Women are still encouraged to dress modestly, even though the government has relaxed the previously rigorous dress rule. From the rock art of the Hale region to the historic city of Diriyah, Saudi Arabia is home to 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. While exploring, keep in mind that some locations might not be accessible to non-Muslims, and always abide by the customs of the locals about decency. Number 4. Turkmenistan. Next on our list is Turkmenistan, a country in Central Asia famous for the fiery door-to-hell crater and its eccentric previous president. Its current dictatorial government and its Soviet history are to blame for its onerous visa requirements. Turkmenistan requires applications to be submitted through an embassy or consulate, in contrast to many other nations that have an online application process. This is the Turkmenistan embassy located in Washington, D.C. The hardest aspect of applying for a visa is frequently obtaining the necessary letter of invitation. A Turkmen travel agency is required to organize your trip. They will then submit an application for the invitation letter on your behalf. Approval is not guaranteed, and the procedure may take several weeks. Be aware that the embassy may reject your application for no apparent reason. In Turkmenistan, solo travel is practically non-existent. The majority of visitors must schedule a guided tour for the whole time they are there. The sole exception to this is if you have a transit visa, which enables you to enter the nation for a maximum of 5 days, but even this is subject to rejection and needs a thorough itinerary. You have 3 days from the time of your arrival in Turkmenistan to register with the State Migration Service. Usually, this is what your trip operator takes care of. If you don't register, you may be subject to fines and have trouble leaving the country. For the adventurous tourist, Turkmenistan nevertheless has plenty to offer in terms of distinctive attractions. Turkmenistan is an incredibly rewarding and difficult place to explore, with sites like the ancient ruins of Merv and Kani Urgench, the flaming Darvaza gas crater, also known as the Door to Hell, and the weird Karakum Desert. Number 3. Syria. Ravaged by war, the U.S. Department of State considers Syria to be a high-risk country because of terrorism, civil upheaval, kidnapping, and armed conflict. Syria-U.S. relations have been significantly strained since the start of the Syrian civil war in 2011. While it is still theoretically feasible, though strongly advised, to obtain a visa through a drawn-out process, the war has substantially reduced tourism. It takes a lot of work and time for an American to obtain a visa for Syria. Applications have to be submitted via the Syrian embassy in your home nation. This presents a problem for the U.S. as the Syrian embassy in Washington, D.C. ceased functioning in 2014. Therefore, you will need to apply through a third nation where the Syrian embassy is now operational. It's important to understand that visiting Syria might have a big impact on future travel plans. For example, if your passport contains a stamp from Syria, you might not be allowed entry into other nations. While Syria is home to many historical and cultural landmarks, such as the ancient cities of Damascus, Aleppo, and Palmyra, it is important to remember that the country has also sustained significant damage and destruction as a result of the ongoing conflict. A humanitarian catastrophe has arisen as a result of the severe circumstances, and the safety and security situation is quite unstable. For safety reasons, it is therefore strongly advised against traveling to Syria at this time. Number 2. Libya. Similar to Syria, Libya is off-limits to American travelers due to ongoing conflict. Because of crime, terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict, the U.S. Department of State strongly advises against traveling to Libya at any time. Libya-U.S. relations are severely strained as a result of the 2011 Libyan civil war and the U.S. ambassador's murder during the Benghazi attack. It can be difficult for an American citizen to obtain a tourist visa for Libya. At this time, tourist visas are not being granted because of the continuous political unrest. However, a business visa is still valid for travel to Libya as of 2023. A valid passport, filled-out application forms, application fee, passport-sized pictures, and an official letter of invitation from a Libyan-based company are normally required for the filing of a business visa application. It is highly recommended that you register your trip itinerary through the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program (STP) with the U.S. Embassy if you decide to visit Libya in spite of the risks. Number 1. Venezuela. Venezuela, a South American country renowned for its breathtaking natural beauty spanning from the Andes Mountains to the Caribbean shoreline, rounds out our list. Regretfully, Venezuela has spent the last few years suffering from a political and economic catastrophe. Battling political unrest and economic catastrophe. The U.S. Department of State warns against traveling to Venezuela at all because of the ongoing crisis, civil unrest, poor infrastructure for healthcare, kidnapping, and the arbitrary arrest and imprisonment of U.S. citizens. To enter Venezuela as an American citizen, you will require a visa. However, obtaining one can be difficult because there are no Venezuelan embassies or consulates in the United States as a result of the two nations' 2019 diplomatic relations breakup. Applications for visas must be submitted via a Venezuelan embassy in a third nation and call for the following documents: a valid passport, an application that has been fully filled out, passport-sized pictures, evidence of trip itinerary, evidence of lodging, and the necessary payment. Venezuela is a perilous place for tourists to visit due to its current political and economic unrest, despite its many attractions including the highest waterfall in the world, Angel Falls, and the Los Roques Archipelago, a national park renowned for its immaculate beaches and coral reefs. I appreciate you seeing. Remember to subscribe and like our YouTube channel.